Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again with yet another Dex Tech, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of what's happening this week on the YouTube channel. I'm going to do a couple of Brothers War ones and a couple of other deck techs this week. Mainly because I'm not really sure where I'm going with Brothers War at the moment. Loving the set, it's really good, but I'm having struggles thinking of more deck techs to do for the Brother Wars. But this is one I've wanted to do anyway, and this is definitely something that's a little bit of fun. Now, what I am going to say is a bit of a, how can I put this nicely, historical deck. Let's go with that terminology, shall we, for this video? Because when you see who the leader is, you'll probably work out what I've tried to do. But what I will say is the leader of this deck is not the deck you think it is. So, without me talking and rambling for much longer, Urza, Chief Artificer. 3 white, blue and black for a 4/5 legendary human artificer. Yep. Well, you've seen this card. Affinities for artifacts, great, brings its cost down. You're going to be spending a lot of time just costing it for white, blue and black, which is lovely even when it's died. An artifact creatures you control have menace. Okay. At the beginning of your end step, create a 0/0 colourless construct artifact token creature. With this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So even if you play Urza and you've got nothing else in play apart from Urza and some lands, you'll still end up with the 1/1 chump blocker, for want of a better phrase. However, as you all know, this is the face card of one of the commander decks from Brothers War, and it's not the commander deck. This deck tech is not about the commander deck. I decided to try and take Urza and go, what should we do? Now, I mentioned historical earlier, and my brain went to, let's do a history lesson with Urza. So I then changed my mind again, whoops, and decided let's do sort of like Urza's life story as we can tell it so far in Magic cards. So that's what I've done with this deck. Now, Urza's always been associated with artifacts, all the way back to the beginning of Magic. If you've ever read the original Brothers War novel that was released many moons ago now, you'll know that there was him and his brother. He ended up marrying a princess. He created the Utatian soldiers, the Ornithopters, so on and so forth, and ended up basically blowing up Dominaria when he became one of the first planeswalkers. That's, if I've just spoilt it for you, I am sorry. But it's a really good book if you get a chance to read it. So, I thought it'd be quite fun to go through it and go, right, Wizards have been kind enough to print us a whole load of different Urzas now. Let's bung them all in one deck and build around all of them and see what we end up with. And that's what I've done with this deck. Just to prove my point, we've got Urza, the Power Stone Prodigy, in here from the Brothers War. Draw a card, discard a card, discard an artifact, get a tap Power Stone. We've got Urza, Lord Protector. Oh, does it come up very well on here? 1 white and blue for 2/3/4. I can't tell on there, they're so small when I've done this because it brings up the other half. Artifact instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. And if you control both Urza and the Might and the Weak Stone, which is also in the deck, the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, I've put that in as well. You can turn him into the Planeswalker, Urza Planeswalker. That's the thing that happens when he combines in the storyline. He puts the Might Stone and the Weak Stone together. They blow up, they rack Gaia's land, if I remember correctly, and embed themselves in his eyes, and he becomes the first Planeswalker based on the power from them. So that's where we are with those two. And finally, if you're going to have an Urza deck, you're going to have to play the Lord High Artificer as well. I'm sure you've all seen this one now. It's one of the most competitive planeswalkers out there. It always turns up from what I know in CEDH decks, and it's one of the main leaders. But like I said, I'm having a bit of fun with this, and I'm just trying to do Urzas sort of like through the ages with these 3 Urzas. Now, the one thing they all 4 of them have in common is they like artifact creatures. So we're going to come to that, but I want to show the Urzas off to start the video because that's how I think it should be. So the land is very much all the blue, black land and white land you could think of. I've gone a little bit heavier on the blue basics and some of the blue jewels than I have some of the other things, purely because white and black are mainly for this. There's not, as you can see in the deck, with the exception of Noxious Gear Hulk and a few bits of white here and there, most of the deck is heavy blue. We've got some things you haven't seen yet, but we'll come to them shortly. And it's 37 lands, and then I have gone very heavy on the ramp. Now, if you're trying to build this, at the moment on MTGO, if you're playing on MTGO, this deck is sitting at just about 42 tickets as I record this video. In real life, if you try and do this in real life, you're looking over $1,000. So you can work out the cards that you're going to need to take out as we go through things. So I've gone for the ramp side. Mox Tantalite, Soul Talisman, Mana Crypt. Mana Vault's in, Sol Ring's in, Arcane Signet's in, one of each of the talismans. We also have Thran Dynamo and Solemn Simulacrum, Junk Paladin Mir, just so we can ramp. We do need a lot of mana for this deck. It does get mana intensive as we go along, so bear that in mind as we're playing this today. The rest of it is really artifact creatures with a couple of things that are a little bit strange. But it's mainly artifact creatures, spells, and a few enchantments. There's a few planeswalkers I chucked in purely because I thought they might know. They've probably heard of Urza. If Urza's got the time walking ability now, he might have time walked around. They might have randomly bumped into him when he's travelling planes and so on and so forth. And there's one character you have to have in because, it's how it goes with Urza in the story. Well, I'm not going to say any more about the story in case I'm spoiling it for anyone. So, let's go through the rest of the cards. Memnite's in, it's a nice cheap creature. It doesn't cost you anything, literally at all. Elixir of Immortality, so I think a lot of our stuff will get destroyed, so we're going to need some way of getting it back. We've got a couple of other at least one other way of doing this in the deck. And Sensei's Divining Top. It can save itself, so you still have that artifact in play if you need it. But you may need to manipulate the top of your library to get the things going with this deck you need to happen. Cyclonic Rift. Yep. Bounce everything back to their hands. Why not? Gives you a little bit of control and keeps things happy. Baleful Strix, an artifact creature, because we do need to have some affinity stuff going on for the artifact creatures. So Baleful Strix and Tideholder Strix made sense. Both have Death Touch, so really good early blockers. So that's why they're in here. I've chucked in Mere Retriever, just so we can go and get anything. When it dies, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. And this goes against any value of artifact card, unlike one of the cards that's coming up in a minute that's still bugged, believe it or not. Steel Overseer's in, just so we can make our artifact creatures bigger as things go along. Scrap Trawler is still blue on MTGO. I have no idea why Scrap Trawler's blue at the moment. It's an artifact. It's just I'm guessing it's some kind of bug on MTGO. It's very weird though, but Scrap Trawler is fairly easy to pick up nowadays, especially since it came back out in the Brothers War. It's in the retro cards as well, but this is the original one from Ether. There you go, Ether Revolt. And when it dies, or another artifact you control is put in the graveyard from play, or from the battlefield, I should say, return to your hand target artifact card in the graveyard with less of mana value, so bear it in mind. Master of Ethereum might as well be in to pump our creatures up, and he's a fairly big threat when things happen. Mirrodin Besieged is basically to bring this in and play Mirren, because you want to be getting, when you're casting the artifact spells, you want to be getting some more Mirs, so bear that in mind. Always set this on Mirren, don't set it, unless you're absolutely desperate to set it on Phyrexian, don't set it on Mirren. I've talked about Urza the Power Stone Prodigy and Urza Lord Protector. Oh, just one thing about the Power Stone Prodigy. It's fine to discard artifacts to get the Power Stone so you can pump your bigger things out quicker. Bear that in mind. I went with Dakon Shadow Slayer purely because the -6 says we can go and get an artifact card from our hand or the graveyard and put it into play. So, yes, we've got to get to -6 first, but, there's quite a few lands in the deck. It might be that you naturally cast him, he's got 7 loyalty when you find them, and therefore you can immediately get an artifact into play. Bear it in mind with Dakon. Void Rend is very nice. Destroy target non-land permanent. It's instant, it's one of each of our main colours, and it can't be countered. You've got a problem if no one else can help you, use Void Rend. Filigree Familiar's in just for the bit of life gain in the card draw when it dies. Junk Diver, return another target artifact card from your graveyard to the hand, so it's very much like Mere Retriever, just this one flies, so it costs 1 more, but it flies, so I can cope with that. Paladin Mir, ramp. In the 4-drop slot, we've got Day of Judgment, just so we've got some removal along with Damnation, as you can see down here. Phyrexians did try to infiltrate a lot of Urza's stuff as things went along, so I figured having a Phyrexian metamorph just to copy maybe one of Urza's artifacts would be quite nice, so hence why this is here. Thopter Spy Network, I think if this was seen, it could be Urza in the picture. We've got a little unknown guy in a white robe over here, it could be Urza. He made a lot of Thopters, so it makes sense to have this in here. The Lord or High Artificer, you already know about. Damnation I've mentioned. Urza, Prince of Krug. I missed one of the Urzas out, my bad. This is the other one. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2, and pay 6. You get to create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control, except as a 1/1 soldier creature in addition to its other types. So, for 6 mana, you could create a Soul Ring that's a 1/1, if you needed to. Yeah, but I forgot this one was in here as well, so my bad. But we've got the Prince in here as well, and all artifact creatures benefit from its nice little pump on the old toughness and power there. Jehovah's Familiar is just to make our spells cost a little bit less as we go through it. Khan was probably Urza's greatest creation if you read all the novels back from the day, and the +1 ability. I know when this first came out in Dominaria United, everyone was going, "Oh, Power Stone's really weak." There's a lot of whinging about Khan on Twitter and all sorts of places. However, Power Stones I knew would always be there somewhere, and now we've seen it come through quite happily with the Brothers' War. We can see how important Power Stones are being to us all, so yeah, it makes sense to grab a Khan and have it in the deck now for this one. And if we can do the -7 thing and tap an untapped artifact to ping something, gives us another way to win the game, which is fantastic. Solemn Sim, ramp the card, draw a card, ramp the mana, draw a card. Found Dynamo I've talked about. Urza's Ruinous Blast is in. It's Urza deck, I have Urza in, If you look down, I didn't show them on here earlier, but it's an Urza deck. Mine, Power Plant, Tower. We've got them in. I have the, if you're doing a theme deck, do it properly, people. Right, Cataclysmic Gearhulk, just so we can control the board a bit more, along with Doomscar. Tezzeret, before he went completely evil, was into artifacts, so it made sense for me to have the mono blue version of Tezzeret in the deck. And Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Urza might have seen him coming, we don't know. But he's in this deck purely to give us a hand and draw some cards and keep things untapped if we need it. The Hollow one, I've went and grabbed over from Hour of Devastation, if I remember correctly. Yep. It's just an artifact creature, I like playing it. But at the end of the day, it also cycles, so it made sense. Kuldoth the Forge Master. We can sack off 3 of the tokens we've created at some stage to go and get a really useful artifact card. The Mightstone I've already mentioned is in here. If you don't know what the Mightstone does, 5 mana. When you cast it, you choose one. You either draw 2 cards or give a target creature -5/-5 until the end of turn. So they're the 2 choices when you first cast it. And then you can tap it and add 2, but you can't, basically it's a double Power Stone for all intents and purposes, in that you need to be able to use that 2 mana you get, 2 colourless mana, on a non-artifacts. It can't be spent on non-artifact spells, you're going to use it to cast artifacts. Luckily, most of this deck is artifacts, you'll be able to use it, so keep it going. Kappa Cannoneers in from the Wonderful World of Kamigawa Neon Destiny Commander. Improvise, we can tap all the artifacts to get it out quicker. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under control, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on Kappa, and it can't be blocked. Ward 4, the only way this card is dying is Wrath of God, or something similar. Noxious Gearhulk, gain a bit of life and have a nice menace creature. Duplicant as well, just to take out something that's annoying us, exile target non-token creature. And the duplicant becomes a copy of it, so there are some benefits to that as well. Wormcoil Engine is technically Phyrexian. Urza fought a lot of them in the books. Therefore, I decided to chuck it in just so we could have it in. But yeah, it's another artifact creature. Omen's Epiphany and Nexus of Fate, just so we can take in a couple of extra turns if we need to as the game goes on. Emergency Powers is the other version of what I was saying, with shuffling everything back from our graveyard to our library. And then we got some big artifact creatures. So Enigma Sphinx I quite like because of the Cascade ability. I'm not sure the rest of it's any good, but when it's pinch your graveyard, you can put it further from top in your library, so that's nice. So it recycles itself as long as it doesn't get exiled. Memnarch, if I remember the storyline correctly, was created by Khan after Urza's Vanishing Act. And I decided to chuck it in. Yeah, at the end of the day, gaining control of artifacts for 4 mana, they're really nice. Yeah, go nick other people's soul rings, mana crypts, anything they're playing that's an artifact you don't want them to have, you can nick it with Memnarch, so hence why it's here. Sphinx of the Steel Wind, just for a bit of protection. Yeah, again, it's a nice big creature, so let's go on with that. Triumphant Reckoning's in. Ooh, when it comes up, there we go. Return all artifact enchantment and planeswalker cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. Like I say, things will get destroyed. If we get up to 9 mana, we can cast this. We might get back on a winning side of things again. Notice it doesn't bring back the creatures, so bear that in mind. Aethersworn Sphinx is another way of cascading. This one's that I like a little bit more because it's got affinity for artifacts. So even though it looks like it's 9 mana to cast it, you're probably going to be casting it for 3. Maybe just the blue and the white on a good day. So bear that in mind, and it will literally cascade into the rest of the deck quite happily. Depth Charge Colossus I've chucked in just because I want another Brothers War card, and it is a 9/9. We'll have 3 mana a lot of the time to untap it, so let's go through it. The prototype size not bad as well. 6 mana for a 6/6, so fun. Phyrexian Trinity Form I've talked about a lot now. Just love the fact that when it dies you get the golem tokens and you can encore it. The last 3 cards are just a little bit fun, I'll be honest. Since Urza turns out to be the most powerful thing ever for a while, I figured Omniscience was a really good call to have in the deck. Yes, I know it's got Jace in the text, in the flavour text and in the artwork, but hey. Darksteel Colossus, because it's a big artifact, and that's something I could imagine Urza creating when he, for the walls. And then the last one, Dance and the Mance, just so we can bring everything back from the graveyard we need to at X value mana. I would probably avoid casting it for 6. I'll probably look at doing it at 5 and bringing everything back. But if you've got things you need to bring back from further up, feel free to do it. Just bear in mind that they become 4/4s. So you may lose some of the power and toughness on the cards. And that's it really. That's my take on Urza, Chief Artificer, as we go through the ages with him. I hope you've enjoyed this little deck tech. Tomorrow's deck tech will be something a little bit different. We're going back a few sets. And then there'll be another Brothers War 1 later in the week. So keep your eyes out for that. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what I've missed. And hopefully I'll see you all soon. If you come and watch me stream, there's a link down below to Twitch. Take care. See you soon. Thanks. Bye.